President Trump has approved a new rule that allows the Social Security Administration to seize your Social Security check and leave you without your benefits for months and, in some cases, years. Let's get into this breaking news that is going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of seniors. So, the Social Security Administration can now take your benefits check, 100% of it, if you owe Social Security money. And I am going to walk you through why this new rule makes it your responsibility, even if the Social Security Administration made a mistake in processing your payment or your benefits. And then stay till the end of this video, because 60 Minutes did an investigation on this particular issue and found some very, very disturbing things at the Social Security Administration regarding Social Security overpayments. So let's talk about this. But before we get started, if you're new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because all we do is bring you the latest news and update, anything in and out of Congress that is going to affect your Social Security, disability, food stamps, Medicaid, and Medicare benefits. But before we start, as always, I want to know where you're watching this broadcast from. So go into the comment section and let me know your city and your state, because we like to know where you guys are watching our videos from. So let's dive into this breaking news. President Trump has authorized the Social Security Administration to recoup 100% of Social Security overpayments. And this is happening right now. So effective March 27, the Social Security Administration will begin withholding 100% of monthly benefits from recipients with new overpayments until the debts are paid off. This represents a dramatic shift from the current 10% cap implemented just 1 year ago under the Biden administration. So, where is this coming from? Under the current policy, a senior receiving $1,500 monthly would still get $1,350 while paying down the debt they owe to the Social Security Administration. However, under this new rule just approved by President Trump, you could see your entire check disappear. This change will leave many seniors with zero income for months, even years, depending on the size of the overpayment. Social Security Administration estimate that there's $7 billion that they're trying to collect, and they are trying to do that from beneficiaries who owe money. This aggressive approach prioritizes reclaiming funds for the Social Security Trust Fund over immediate financial needs that individual taxpayers may have. There is a very limited exemption. The new 100% withholding will not apply to SSI overpayments, which will still remain at 10%, nor will it affect people who are currently in a payment plan. If you currently have a payment plan with the Social Security Administration, excuse me, then if it's before March 27th, then you are not required to fall under this new rule. Everybody else, this is going to apply to you. So the question is, how does Social Security overpayments happen? Well, let's talk about it and let me explain. Basically, overpayments happen for a variety of reasons. Many overpayments occur when recipients fail to report income, work status, living arrangements, or marital status that could affect their Social Security and disability benefits. Even inadvertent delay in reporting these changes can result in thousands of dollars in overpayment that must be repaid. Despite the Social Security Administration's effort, their outdated computer systems and complex rules lead to administrative errors that can result in incorrect payments. These government mistakes still legally require repayment from beneficiaries. Essentially, if the Social Security Administration makes a mistake and send you more money than you deserve or are eligible for, if they make a mistake in processing your paperwork, if you've reported changes in your income, work status, living arrangements, and they didn't get around to correcting it, and you get paid more than you deserve, you still owe that money back. Overpayment often goes undetected for years before the Social Security Administration identifies the issue. During this time, overpayment could continue to accumulate, sometimes reaching tens of thousands of dollars before recipients receive any notice. Social Security rulebook contains over 20,000 pages of regulations that even agency employees struggle to interpret correctly. This complexity means many beneficiaries don't understand when certain life changes require reporting or how these changes might affect their benefits. There is a real human cost to this. Real world cases illustrate the devastating consequences of aggressive beneficiary recovery, such as Denise Woods, a Georgia retiree who became homeless after receiving a $58,000 overpayment bill and having her entire check withheld. Similar stories could become more common under the new reinstatement policy of 100%. Approximately 2 million people receive overpayment notices annually, and about 1 million potentially facing complete benefit withholding under the new policy. Many of these individuals are elderly and disabled with limited or no alternative income. So, pretty much 2 million people are going to be impacted by this. And sometimes you don't know that you've been receiving money you shouldn't have, or you are getting more social security check or disability check than you should. And then, bam, you get hit with this overpayment. And now they're going to stop your benefits. It's not one of those things where you're going to get 10% taken out every time until you pay it back. They're going to completely stop your benefits until it is all paid back, which could take months and even years, depending on how much you owe. Some experts warn that beneficiaries who lose their Social Security check may also face complications with their Medicare coverage because for some people, their Medicare premium are taken from their Social Security check. And so if your Social Security check is gone, then your Medicare benefits is also threatened. Former Social Security policy expert Kathleen Romig warns that ramping up the 100% recoveries could lead to increased hunger, homelessness, and missed medical care among affected beneficiaries. Without their primary source of income, many seniors will be unable to afford basic necessities like rent, utilities, food, and medication. So, why is this happening? What is the context of this? What is driving the president to do this? Acting Commissioner Lee Dudek justified the change as a return to standard practice that existed during the Obama administration and the first Trump administration to properly safeguard taxpayer funds. The 10% cap was characterized as an unwise concession that the agency is duty bound to end. So, what happened was that 60 Minutes did an investigation that found that a lot of seniors and people on disability were unfairly being targeted and their check confiscated for years without any money that they can live off of because of overpayment, most of which were the fault of the Social Security Administration. So, after that report, Congress obviously did what they like to do. They pulled the Social Security Commissioner in front of Congress, the House, and the Senate, and they grilled them. And then they decided that they needed to make a change. And so the Social Security Administration decided, okay, we're not going to try to stop people's check 100%. We're going to collect 10% at a time from each paycheck. That is the background to this. And now they want to return to the 100%. President Trump claimed in his February address to the Congress that Social Security faces shocking levels of incompetence and probably fraud, including payments to a 160-year-old. Official data contradicts these claims, showing improper payment represent less than 1% of all benefits paid. The policy change comes amid uproar and disruptions and chaos at the Social Security Administration, including plans to cut 7,000 jobs, closure of offices, and what former officials describe as a hostile takeover of the agency. Former Commissioner Martin O'Malley has warned these changes could lead to a system collapse and advised beneficiaries to save their money in preparation for benefits interruption. So, how can you check whether you owe Social Security money? Well, the most direct way to know is through the official letter from the Social Security Administration detailing the amount you owe and the reason for the overpayment. These notices are sent via postal mail, so it is important to keep your address updated with the Social Security Administration. That is one way to check. You can also log into your personal Social Security account online and view your payment history, benefits amount, and any pending issues. The key phrase here is that when you log in online, make sure you look at the pending issues section to see if they sent you any letter or they flagged your account for any issues. This secure online portals provide access to your complete benefit information and can show discrepancies that might indicate an overpayment. You can also call the Social Security Administration at 1-800-772-1213 or visit a local Social Security Administration office, but you have to make an appointment in order to get an in-person visit. Now, with everything that's happening with offices being closed, staff being cut, phone services being severely scaled back, anytime you call the Social Security Administration from now on, you have to be patient. I've had people say they've been waiting online for 3 hours and gave up. So even if you visit the office, know that it's going to take time before you get your issue resolved. If you notice an unexpected reduction in your monthly benefit, this could indicate that the agency had begun withholding funds to recover an overpayment issue. Unexplained changes should be investigated immediately by contacting Social Security for clarification. Now, there are certain frequently asked questions about overpayment. So I have 6 of them that I want to share with you. So the first one is, what should I do if I receive an overpayment notice? Well, do not panic, but don't ignore it either, as the problem would not go away on its own. Contact Social Security at their phone number 1-800-772-1213 or visit your local office, make an appointment to discuss your options for appealing the decision or requesting a lower withholding rate. The next question is, can you appeal an overpayment decision? Yes, you have the right to appeal both the existence of an overpayment and the amount the agency claims you owe. You must file your appeal within 60 days of receiving the notice, and the Social Security Administration will not pursue collection while your initial appeal is pending. So here's the deal. If you get a Social Security overpayment letter, you can file an appeal within 60 days of receiving that letter. And what that means is that it stops the administration from pursuing any collection activity while they review your appeal. There are about 3 different appeal processes that you can go through. So if the first one is rejected, there's another option, and then all the way to seeing an administrative judge to review your case if you really believe that you are being treated unfairly based on the amount or even the existence of the overpayment issue in the first place. The next question is, what if I cannot afford to pay the full amount? Well, you can request a lower withholding amount by contacting the Social Security Administration and explaining your financial situation. The agency has stated that individuals who cannot afford full recovery of their overpayment should reach out to arrange a partial withholding plan instead of the 100%. So automatically they're going to go to 100%. If you have an overpayment, they're going to stop your check and they're going to use all of that to pay back the money. But if you cannot financially afford that, and I don't know how many people can afford their whole paycheck or Social Security check being impounded and used to repay a debt until it's paid off. So the best thing you can do is call them or make an appointment, visit an office, and explain your situation. Take all your financial documents, show them your bills, show them how much you're getting and how you will not be able to survive if they withhold your entire Social Security or disability check. Can I get an overpayment waived completely? Yes, you can. You can request a waiver and you have to fill out a form, Social Security Form 3632, if you can prove 2 things. The first one is that the overpayment was not your fault. And then the second, that you cannot afford to repay it. The agency will evaluate your financial situation and may waive the recovery if repayment causes hardship. Now, let me tell you this. They rarely approve this. So do not expect to just file a waiver and then the problem will go away. How long do I have to request a waiver or appeal? You should file an appeal within 30 days of receiving an overpayment notice to prevent automatic withholding, or within 60 days to preserve your appeal rights. So here's the thing. If you want them to stop collection, it's best to file your appeal within 30 days of getting the letter. Your letter is going to say 60 days, but if you want to prevent collection activities, you should file within 30 days any appeal or waiver request. Waiver requests can be filed at any time, but the best opportunity is to do it promptly to avoid or minimize benefit reductions. Will my Medicare coverage be affected? This remains unclear because they haven't provided guidance on Medicare premiums and how they'll be handled if they completely withhold your benefits. But you can call 1-800-Medicare directly to also arrange alternative methods of payment if your Social Security check is completely withheld. So, as I mentioned, a lot of overpayments is due to mistakes that the Social Security Administration has made. But by law, even if the Social Security Administration makes mistakes on calculating your benefits amount or your benefits, it's still your responsibility to pay the money back. So I'm going to walk you through a few examples, actually 3 very big examples in this 60-minute report so that you can see what people on Social Security and disability who've been hit by this overpayment had to go through, and the horror and the depressing stories that they have to share about what the Social Security Administration has put them through. But before we do that, I want to digress for a second. All this month and last month, we've been talking about Medicare. A lot of you have been sharing your stories about being kicked off Medicare plans or having coverage dropped or your doctors dropped from the network. And so I have been sharing resources with you. We've partnered with a very, very credible top Medicare advisory company, Chapter Medicare. And their main goal is to help you during this open enrollment period, which is about to close at March 31st. So you have a very small window to really take action and get into a better plan, because 90% of seniors are in the wrong Medicare plan. And it is because there are 24,000 different plans out there. It can be confusing to figure out which fits your budget, which fits your needs. And so people get in the wrong plans and they feel like they don't have an option. Well, you do have an option. Call Chapter at 539-205-2147 or go to the description in this video. There's a form you can fill out. They have agents waiting to talk to you and help you figure out what is best for you and get you into a better plan before the end of this month. And here's the thing. Their licensed agents do not work for commission. So when you're on the phone with them, they're not trying to sell you the most expensive plan. They are primarily there to help you get into the best plan that fits your need. And they can save you money, up to $1,100 a year on average. So call Chapter, act soon because the window is closing. And let's move on to this 60-minute story. And I'm going to share with you these 3 heartbreaking stories. So the first one is with Stephen and Becky Sword of Chicago, Illinois. So in 2022, Stephen and Becky received a devastating letter from the Social Security Administration demanding that they pay back $51,887 within 30 days, throwing their modest but stable lives into chaos. The couple, both 62 years old, were working full-time, were terrified they could lose their home as they had no way to produce such a large sum of money on short notice. And then the years of agony begins. Becky had meticulously faxed Stephen's pay stubs to Social Security after he began receiving disability benefits in 2017, following a life-threatening 105-day hospitalization for pancreatic disease. She kept all fax receipts as proof of their compliance, believing they were following all required procedures to keep the agency informed. Despite having Stephen's earning information, Social Security sent the Swords letters increasing his benefits to give him credit for the 2019 earnings, creating the impression that they were reviewing and approving his continued eligibility. Well, 3 years later, the agency claimed Stevens shouldn't have received any benefits during this period, despite having previously reviewed and increased those same benefits. You see what I'm talking about? They make a mistake and then they stick you with the bill. With no realistic way to pay $1,400 monthly as demanded by the Social Security Administration, the Swords were prepared to surrender their entire $60,000 retirement savings to the Social Security Agency designed to support Americans in their old age. Only after 60 minutes questioning the Social Security Administration about their case did the agency say they would not have to repay the money after all. So, in this case, there was a happy ending because after 60 minutes featured them in their story, Social Security backed off. But there are millions of people in similar situation that don't have 60 minutes reporting about their stories and are being stuck with these bills that they have to deal with. Another person that was highlighted was Jean and Glenn, and they live in Virginia Beach. In 2018, 4 years after Jane began receiving retirement benefits, she and her husband, Glenn, were asked to come to their local Social Security office, where a representative casually mentioned they had a small problem. Jane had been overpaid $72,000, and the 73-year-old former school cafeteria worker and her husband were devastated by this unexpected financial blow. So imagine you have been approved for Social Security, you're claiming benefits, you're minding your own business, you get a letter to come to the local Social Security office, and then they tell you the benefits you've been receiving, you've been overpaid by the tune of $72,000 and you have to pay it back. Social Security explained that they had erroneously combined Jean's earnings record with those of 4 other people. Can you imagine that? Resulting in benefit calculations based on 5 people's salaries instead of just hers. Despite acknowledging that this was entirely the agency's error, they still insisted that the couple had to repay the full amount. Even though Social Security admitted the mistake was completely their fault, they demanded repayment because Jean's own, basically the couple owned their home and Glenn received a Navy pension. It was something I knew I did totally wrong. They have the right to come after me, but I didn't know how they calculated it and then waited 4 years to figure it out. So that's what she's saying. It's like, look, how is it that it took 4 years for you guys to figure out that I was getting more money than I should? Jean's retirement checks were completely withheld for 2 years. She never received a single check for 2 years as the agency recouped their error, forcing the elderly couple to live on significantly reduced income. After waiting 4 years for the appeal to be heard and only after 60 minutes investigated, Social Security finally contacted the couple to inform them that they did not have to repay the remaining balance. Notice the remaining. They didn't say they didn't have to pay the entire balance. They said they will let you have the hook for what you owe going forward, but what you've already paid back is gone. And then the third one is Roy Farmer. This is probably the most disturbing of all the stories. More than 2 years before the 60 Minutes report, Roy Farmer received a letter from Social Security asking about a debt from 20 years earlier when he was just 11 or 12 years old. The agency claimed his mother had received $4,902 in overpayment on his behalf after they determined he was no longer medically eligible for benefits. All right, there's a story here. Born with cerebral palsy, Roy grew up in rural Michigan in a family of 6 that struggled financially, sometimes nearly becoming homeless. As a child, he used to wear leg braces and a walker, requiring numerous surgeries and doctor visits, treatments that eventually allowed him to live a more or less normal life with some limitations. When he was 33 and working full-time, the Social Security Administration requested documentation of his alleged medical disability as a child, and it took 9 months to obtain his records. Social Security ultimately admitted they probably had it at some point, but don't know if they have it. Yet still demanded that he pay the full amount, the $4,209 that he owes. The debt represented approximately 1/6 of his income, his annual take-home income, making it financially devastating for him to repay, despite acknowledging that they had no evidence he was at fault and that the overpayment occurred when he was a child. With no decision-making authority, the agency continued pursuing collection until 60 Minutes intervened on his behalf. So you can see there's a pattern here. So imagine all the millions of people who do not have this benefit of having a powerful media voice to advocate for them. Think about what those people are going through. People are losing their social security and disability check. And with this new rule that requires you to pay it back 100%, a lot more people are going to suffer. So each of these profile cases was resolved only after 60 Minutes contacted Social Security with detailed questions about their situation. This suggests a pattern where legitimate hardship claims and appeals were denied until external pressure is applied, raising questions about how many other Americans continue to suffer without media advocacy. Jean and Glenn waited 4 years for the appeal to be heard. Roy Farmer waited 4 months just to schedule an appointment with an administrative judge, and the Swartz gave up fighting altogether. The system appears designed to exhaust beneficiaries into compliance rather than fairly evaluating their specific situation. In addition, most overpayment victims struggle to find attorneys willing to take their case due to limited financial incentives, forcing vulnerable people to navigate a complex bureaucracy by themselves. Without professional advocacy, beneficiaries face overwhelming odds against a powerful government agency with extensive legal resources. This is basically, once you get one of these letters, it's an uphill battle because you're facing the Social Security Administration with unlimited legal resources against you, trying to figure out how you can sort this out and not ruin yourself financially in the process. Only after 60 Minutes investigation did Social Security Commissioner, the former Commissioner Martin O'Malley, announce changes to the overpayment policy in March 2024. So here we are a year later, and President Trump is scrapping all these changes because O'Malley limited withholding to 10%, making it easier to waive decisions that they thought were unfair. The timeline suggests the agency was aware of hardships, but only acted when facing public scrutiny and potential congressional oversight. So, Social Security's interpretation of when to apply the equity and good conscience waiver provision appears inconsistent. So, basically, what that means is that the Social Security Administration has power to waive your overpayment if they think it's for equity and good conscience. It means that you did not know, or you were not at fault, or it can be reasonably determined that you did not do this knowingly. Despite having clear authority to waive repayments that could cause hardship, the agency routinely denies these requests until forced to reconsider by external pressure. So here's where your congressperson comes in, your senator comes in. Usually, when Social Security receives a letter from a senator or a congressperson about a particular case, they are more likely to pay attention and dig in further and cross their T's and dot their I's. So if you find yourself in an overpayment situation, contact your congressperson and let them, if you have a good case, let them write on your behalf, because that is one way to get some relief from this devastating process that ruined a lot of lives. In all three profiled cases, such Social Security either lost critical documentation, failed to review information they regularly received, or waited years to identify problems while continuing to approve benefits. These administrative failures contradict the agency's insistence that beneficiaries bear full responsibility for monitoring payment accuracy. Financial experts recommend common sense reforms like implementing a statute of limitation, 18 months, which is what has been suggested, that they cannot go after you if 18 months has passed since the error started or was discovered. So that's one suggestion I don't think is going to happen given where the Trump administration is headed with this. So now let's look at what 60 Minutes found, and then I will wrap this up. Each year, 1 million receive unexpected bills from Social Security demanding repayment. This represents a significant portion of the 71 million Americans who rely on benefits. Recipients are often blindsided by these notices of tens of thousands of dollars with just 30 days for them to pay it back. According to economist Lawrence Kotloff, Social Security operates under a principle that beneficiaries are responsible for repaying overpayment regardless of who caused the error. The agency has the power to withhold future benefits to recoup funds, leaving many disabled and senior Americans in financial distress. And these debts can be decades old. There is no statute of limitation on how long Social Security can wait to collect overpayments, with some cases going back to 20 years. Roy Farmer, who I just profiled, was pursued for $4,902, allegedly overpaid to his mother while he was 11 years old, even though the Social Security Administration admitted they no longer had evidence supporting their claim. Many overpayment victims face catastrophic financial consequences, with some losing their homes or becoming unable to afford basic necessities. Stephen and Becky Swart, both 62 and working full-time while managing Stephen's pancreatic disease, feared losing their home when they were presented with that $51,000 bill. The Swarts were preparing to surrender their $60,000 savings and give it all up because they couldn't afford or were tired of dealing with the Social Security Administration. And I told you about Jane, who the Social Security made an error in calculating her benefits, but they still pursued her aggressively to get the money back. Despite Congress approving measures in 2015 to reduce overpayment by giving Social Security more timely access to payroll data, 8 years later, the agency still hasn't implemented a new system. So here again, it's their fault, but they will have you pay the money. Aging technology and staff shortages have significantly compromised the agency's ability to accurately track beneficiary eligibility. A review of Social Security's annual report to Congress revealed that the amount of money being clawed back from beneficiaries with overpayment has been steadily increasing. So the graph you see on the left is showing you how much they've been clawing back each year since 2017. They had 2.8 billion in 2022. It was $3.354 billion. Most overpayments victims struggle to find legal representation, as I mentioned before. Without professional advocacy, it is really hard to push this through and face an organization like the Social Security Administration. But why are they so urgently trying to do this? Well, it's part of it is because the Social Security Trust Fund runs out of money in 2035, and this is being used as an excuse to get all the money the government is owed to put back in the trust fund. But the trust fund issues, it's way bigger than this. This will not even, if they collected all the money owed due to overpayment, it will not even solve 0.5% of the issues that the trust fund is going to have in 2033, when benefits will have to be cut automatically by 21%. The Social Security Act specifically states that the agency should not recover an overpayment if doing so will be against equity and good conscience. It means that they can look at the situation, and if they see that the person is not at fault or is going to financially cripple the person, they have the authority not to get the money. However, the agency interprets this provision extremely narrowly, refusing to apply it in most cases. Waivers are generally only granted if the beneficiary is in really abject poverty situation. That's the only time they're gonna approve you for a waiver. Other than that, you're on the hook for it. The agency expects immediate payment from beneficiaries, but often takes years or decades to identify their own error. And so it will take them years to find out that they made a mistake, but then they want you to pay it back in 30 days. And then even if you send them documents and they received it, it doesn't mean they're going to process it immediately. And all this time, you're still racking up overpayment bills. And then when they get around to it, they're going to send you a letter asking for their money back. So what does this all mean? Well, the Congress can do something about it, but they're not. And with President Trump approving this latest change where they're going to do 100% in collections, I doubt Congress is going to stand up to the president or do something different, because so far they have shown themselves to not even want to do their basic jobs, let alone try to fight for Social Security or disability beneficiaries in getting them a fair situation when they navigate this overpayment rule. So my thought is that this is going to get worse. So you should go and check your Social Security statement online. Make sure that you don't owe any money. Make sure that there's no issues that have been highlighted in your account. And if there are, get ahead of it immediately, because this policy is very aggressive and it doesn't look like they're going to change their minds anytime soon. So I want to know in the comments, what do you think about all of this? This is going to ruin a lot of people's lives, people on disability, people on Social Security. Let me know if you've been impacted by this, or if you know somebody that has been impacted by overpayment. Share your stories in the comments. And until I see you in our next video, thank you for watching our video today.